Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to my horror movie podcast. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah,
That's so simple.
I know.
Can't overcomplicate stuff, man.
No.
People overcomplicate shit all the time.
So I'm going to need you to introduce yourself because I think it's important that you give the spiel.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Jomo Senpai, aka John Morton, and I am probably best known as a Twitch streamer, content creator on the internet. I'm also a connoisseur of memes on a global basis. I also am the number one obtainer and wielder of many, many hundreds of headbands, if that makes sense.
No, that's
So,
nice. I see you wearing
and
one
humble.
right now.
Yes, thank you. I try not to go, and I do not have an imprint along my forehead, by the way.
Or a tan.
I just like the comfort of them, and they maintain my massive head of hair, as you can see, is very
It's big.
large.
How long is your hair?
You know, I've never measured it, but
okay.
I think it's down. It's like further than my belly button.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool. That's how
and
long I want my hair.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like a big 6 foot tall Canadian lumberjack too. So there's a lot of
Room.
length. Yeah.
My partner has really long hair. He is 6'3" and has like hair halfway down his back. And I always like put it on my head and pretend it's my hair, and I'm just like, oh.
What do you think of my my getup? By the way,
I love it. Has it got sumo wrestlers in it? Where did you get that?
My colleagues got this for me.
It's really cool. What does it
And
say
it's
on
my
it?
I
I
don't
don't know either.
There's a bunch of sumo wrestlers
It's
on
cool.
it. And it's
dig
my like my work attire on it.
Mine was
on
just
every,
pajamas. Except when I had a meeting, I was like, oh shit, I've got to put like an actual shirt and bra on now.
Yeah, I just don't turn the video on.
Oh,
you
see,
know?
we had to because we had Teams, and so everyone's like, video chat, and I'm like, oh, no.
Just say your cam's not working.
I have conjunctivitis,
So
you don't
glitching
want to
out.
see that.
Sorry, guys.
They all know I stream, so they're like, as if your camera's screwed.
That's the conundrum.
Okay, so for this episode, it's just really bad at segues.
Oh my gosh, don't even worry about it. I have been waiting. For like 2 to 3 weeks to tell you about the first time I watched American Psycho.
Please, can you please tell me? Because now I need to know.
So it's one of these movies. It was one of these movies where so many people had been telling me to watch it for so long. Like I was going through my life for at least a few years with people just shocked that I had not seen it. And eventually, I had just moved into this new place with a roommate. I was like done. I was all done moving in. I was like, I'm going to order pizza and watch a movie. And it's like, oh, I have to watch American Psycho now. And I wasn't, I went into it blind. I didn't know that much about it. Everyone had hyped it up. And it was almost like immediately when I started watching it. And immediately I was just like completely sucked into the bizarre life that Christian Bale's character was playing. And how immediately it starts out and he's got his morning routine. And he is he's such a psycho about every little detail. And that was like such a crazy way to kind of like enter the movie, like enter the story and understand the character and who we're kind of dealing with here, because the title is American Psycho. And then the more and more it like went along, it was just like the whole time my jaw was dropped, and then eventually like different climaxes throughout the movie would happen, and it was just like shock after shock after shock. But yeah, that's the first time I watched American Psycho.
I think I would have been... I can't remember how old I was when I first watched it, because I read it because the book came out in like 19. I've got the date here for the book.
So you read the book first?
Yes, yeah, I'd read the book. Because it came out in 1991,
Wow.
and then this movie came out in 2000, but I didn't watch it because I would have only been like 11 in 2000. So definitely didn't watch it. But I was like, oh, what's this book about? And so I read the book, but then it would have been a couple of years later that I watched the movie. So I might have been maybe 19 or 20 when I first watched it. And I'm pretty sure that my best friend at the time, she was obsessed with the movie. So she was like, we've got to watch this movie. And
Yeah.
she used to quote it all the time. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, it's American Psycho, you have to watch it. And I'm a huge Christian Bale fan. And so I was like, why hadn't I seen this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I would have been, in like maybe 19 or 20 when I watched it.
Well, it's also an interesting time to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because of like the global sort of political landscape, how we've got sort of a psychopath in holding office in the U.S. And as you know, like being in Australia, me being in Canada, whatever happens in the U.S. does have like an echo. It has like an echo effect in other countries. And yeah, it's really a good time to watch it again because you can actually see a lot of similarities between Christian Bale's character and how he kind of just operates and interacts with people.
Yeah.
And
it's really
the
odd.
same. It's scary, to think that a movie that and like a story, because it was a book first, that just the whole purpose of it was to portray this like psychopath in society.
Yeah, because Bret Easton Ellis was really young when he wrote this. I think this was in his first year at literary school. Like,
no way.
I don't know what. I have a feeling he went to NYU. I don't know why I get that. Maybe it's because I'm like, NYU's known for like writers and actors and maybe, but he was
possibly.
I think he was really young when he wrote this, so it's really interesting that he had this kind of perspective on the typical male in America, and that's what he was trying to present, like that there are so many men out there like this, and that they just blend into the crowd and nobody notices.
Yeah, well, I went through a period where I was quite obsessed with like the psychology around sociopaths and psychopaths, and I got a bunch of books on them, and so I was quite familiar with how psychopaths are clinically looked at in society and in business. There's this famous book called Snakes in Suits where it's really broken down, and how a lot of psychopaths tend to end up in these very powerful, high-level positions of seniority and leadership because they know so well how to manipulate their way into different, circles and systems. And I just the way they showed that and portrayed that in the movie, I thought was quite clever. I mean, we don't see Bateman in the movie climb a corporate ladder.
No,
like he's already there.
Well, his dad owns the company. And
yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
He's already like vice president of the company, and it's just like it kind of shows that these men don't have to work hard to get in those spots. They're kind of just like, here you go. You're a narcissist and a psychopath. You get this job. Like, they're immediately liked by people. And it's just so nuts that these systems continuously support this type of behavior and nothing's done about it. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and the other cool thing to sort of relate the film to our present day is much like how, Patrick Bateman's dad is, the owner of the firm. Trump, as you probably know, also inherited his wealth from his father.
Yeah. And his
And
kids are currently benefiting from his position, and it's just like, isn't there anything in the like legal system to prevent this from happening within government systems? Because in Australia, that just wouldn't be a thing. Like, you can't do that here.
yeah, well, I know there are. This is one of the most shocking things about having him in office is there are governing bodies in like North American law and politics that prevent conflicts of interest like that. I.e., one of the big things when Trump did come into office is he had to disassociate himself with all of his businesses.
Yeah.
But you don't really do that. You just pass them off to, your other family. And so there was a lot of that discussion when he first got elected, but there's all sorts of other ways to do that.
Yeah.
In a conniving way
Without
where
actually
on
having
paper, on paper you're disassociated, but really you own some accounts like offshore that could have an interest in different business operations. So it's all just a load of horse shit anyway.
Yeah. In Australia, like, you just can't get away with that stuff. Like, there's just so much integrity commissions, and you just wouldn't get away with it.
Well, that's really impressive to hear.
Yeah.
Because I thought the same for the U.S. I was like, there's no way half the shit is going to fly because of all these commissions. But somehow...
they had other ideas, other plans.
And... mind you, I am not an expert by any means in like political science or, systems, government systems, but I am familiar with some of these governing bodies that are supposed to be a watchdog for those exact things.
Well, no, he just puts people in there to prevent them from watching him.
Yeah, not to digress too much, but I don't know if you've been keeping up to date with the New York Times, expose on his tax records.
Oh, actually, sorry. I was thinking of a Washington Post thing about his Biden's emails, Hunter Biden's emails, that they think they're just not real. And I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're fake.
That's an amazing conspiracy.
It is, isn't it?
But no, Trump's, somehow the New York Times got this unwavering... irrevocable evidence of all of Trump's tax returns and records, and the evidence is just damning, but it doesn't really matter because Trump could commit murder on national television and his base would just be like, getting the job done or some weird shit like that.
I posted about this on Twitter yesterday, that the weirdest thing about his supporter base is that he could literally just say, the LGBT community love me. Nobody does more for the LGBT community than me. No evidence, no proof, no statistics provided, no legislation that he's brought in as supporting documents. He just has to say it, and his supporter base is like, woo, yeah, you love the gays. And it's just like, what has he done? I'm, as a non-biased perspective, I would want to see evidence.
Yeah, it's been really there's all sorts of frustrating things like that. I've been keeping up to date with a site I've been getting into called Snopes.
I go there for the fact checking.
Yeah, they're interesting because they've really become a huge part of the internet's sort of source of truth.
Yeah. I used to go to Snopes.com all the time when I was a kid, because I'm like, I need to know if this story is true and if this email chain is going to kill me.
Yeah. So they're kind of the internet's definitive fact-checking resource. And they're also, what I like about them is they're just as hard on other political parties as they are on Trump. Trump just has the most facts that need to be checked because everything he fucking says is a lie.
Yeah.
So most of it is...
I was like, if he didn't lie 600 times a day, Snopes wouldn't have any content, so...
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point, actually. One of my favorite scenes in American Psycho, is when him and his girlfriend are on their way to have dinner.
Yeah, this is at the start of the film, isn't it? When he... Because we'll go through the film.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's with Evelyn, who is played by Reese Witherspoon. And
Yes.
she's just great. I just love the... Because I know it was filmed in the 2000s, but it's obviously set in the mid-80s. And it's just like the suits and the clothes... Like the suit... I love a fitted suit. So watching this last night, I was like, oh, they're so baggy and square. And I was like, oh, what is happening?
Yeah, and they're on their way to this like work dinner, and Patrick Bateman's just like in his own head, kind of rehearsing all the things that he's going to use this evening to like kind of talk about, you know. And then Reese Witherspoon's character is just like yapping away at all these things, and she says something like, "You're such a square," and Bateman replies, "I just want to fit in."
Yeah.
And it's like such a psychopathic thing to say.
But I kind of felt sad at the same time, because I was just like,
oh,
I know that he is a psychopath and, you know, a narcissist, but it was like a little bit of human, if that, like, a little bit of human, like, tendencies to be... Because I know, obviously, with psychopathy, and there is a lack of that empathy and compassion, and he just wants people to see him as a person, maybe?
So that's an interesting take, because I did not get that take.
Oh, really? I think I'm just really compassionate.
Well, when you explain it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
As you were saying that, I was like, oh, yeah, actually, that makes total sense. It is kind of actually a human thing to say, to want to fit in. But in my head, like, knowing how psychopathy works, the desire to fit in is coming from this, like, place of non-emotion, from a place of survival.
Okay, that makes sense too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but to even say that, to make a statement like that as a psychopath is also rare.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to know really anything about you. You just want to blend in very, very slyly, and, you know, say what people expect you to say. So like constructing this image, this like version of yourself, and thinking about ways you can use it to get ahead and, you know, to get more than others is also very psychopathic.
Yeah. And he does that throughout the whole film. Like, he sets up this real big, like, mask of himself. Like, this is, and the thing is, like, you can see this is who he really is, and this is how people see him. And that juxtaposition throughout the whole film is really interesting, because you're just like, wait, which one is he? Like, who is he really? And I think that maybe in psychopathy, that is that dichotomy that happens, not dichotomy, sorry, like the duality that occurs with someone who is a psychopath. Like, how they perceive themselves and how they want to be perceived.
The other interesting thing is, like, what is the difference? Like, what are the main differences between a psychopath and a sociopath?
I think sociopaths lack empathy, compassion, and relatability.
Yeah. And then psychopaths are just more, I guess, more traditionally, I guess, more evil, for lack of a better word.
I think that they just think that the ends justify the means. Like, they're just like, I'm doing this because eventually I'm going to get that, and that's fine. And I don't care who I take out along the way. And I think that narcissists do that a lot. Like, people with narcissistic personality disorder kind of do that, in a way. Yeah.
Because that's always something I get confused about, because I feel like the... narcissism and sociopathic wording gets used a lot.
Yes.
Psychopath in you know, pop culture is more like demonized. It's more used for people that are like evil, like the villain. the
Yeah.
villain is a psychopath,
But it's not necessarily that those people are doing, the ultimate evil, but they're doing something that's, against societal norms and expectations to get what they want or be where they want to be or say what they want. And I think
Got it.
sociopathy kind of fits into that as well, but I think sociopathy is more about you as a social person. So, like, things... I read an article last night that they labelled Patrick Bateman with antisocial personality disorder. And I was just like, okay, well, that makes sense. Because obviously with psychopathy, there'd be lots of disorders that go under that. Like personality disorders. It wouldn't just be, oh, you're a psychopath.
Yeah, totally.
So, like, antisocial behaviour, manipulative behaviour.
What throughout the movie, like, did we see a lot of, like, manipulation happening?
Not really. We just
Now
saw
that I
really
think of it?
odd behaviour. Actually, no, not really.
Maybe slightly with who's that other character? When they're the business card scene.
Yes. Yeah.
Another one of my absolute most favorite scenes of any movie of all time. When they're all comparing their business cards, and slowly but surely, as the scene carries on, what feels like a very long extended period of time, Patrick Bateman continues to get more frustrated, and he's trying to hide it, and the whole experience is just making him, like, sweat profusely.
And Lewis is like, are you alright, Bateman? Like, you're sweating.
Yes. That character with the hair that, like, parts ways, and he's kind of like this nerdy little
and
character.
Patrick Bateman is having an affair with with Lewis's partner, fiance,
Yes.
Courtney, who's just always
Yes.
high on Valium all the time. Like, she's just always high as balls. And I was like, that kind of says something as well about American society, where people are not necessarily taking drugs to ignore issues, but it's like a metaphor for how people are just really oblivious to things that are going on around them, and the state of their like social circles or friends and family, and that, so Courtney is like the personification of absolute, like, obliviousness.
Yes. Yeah.
Because she's just like off
And
with the fairies all the time.
Yeah, and then speaking of that character, the other thing I wanted to say before we sort of move on further and further into the film was, throughout the movie, I don't know if you got this, but one of the things I really enjoyed that I noticed that seemed very like planned by the writers or the producers is that there's a lot of you understand both Patrick's character and what was his wife's name again?
Evelyn, his fiancée.
Evelyn.
Yeah,
like you kind of understand them quite a bit as individuals, which are very shallow anyways.
Yeah.
But what I liked was that they just did not have any relation to one another.
No.
Like, they had this life together. They both lived in New York. They both had this social life, yet both of them were completely disconnected from one another. And you see that sort of you see the relationship kind of break down the further into the film you get. But I just thought that was very well done, because it made me look at every relationship I had in my life with my friends, and I'm like, do I have any of these?
Yeah.
Do I have any of these types of friendships where I, like, just hang out with certain people yet don't even think about what actually connects us?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that kind of pulled you in.
No, like, I definitely can
As well.
identify with that. Like, I didn't think of that, but when you mention it, I can look at my friendships and say, I know what connects me to my friends and why I'm friends with them. And it's not for, reputation purposes or having a certain social standing or anything like that. The people who I had those relationships with are now out of my life because I kind of noticed, hey, you're not really contributing to my life. I'm not contributing to yours. Let's just not do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do the song and dance where people see us publicly, but we're not actually friends. Like, I'm sick of that shit.
And then, so kind of riffing on that theme, I also saw a lot of, like, relations. Like, the movie was about Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
But most of his other colleagues also seem like psychopaths.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Jared Leto's character
Paul Allen.
doesn't seem... Paul Allen doesn't seem any better than Patrick Bateman. And so the other thing is I feel like the film could have been, replace Patrick Bateman with any of these other guys, and you'd probably have a relatively similar film too. I don't know if that was intentional.
No, and I think that they kind of... I think they were just showing because obviously American Psycho is about materialism and us needing all these things to identify ourselves with. And, like, at the start, they're going to a fancy restaurant. One of the guys is like, oh, this bathroom's terrible to do coke in. And it's just like... It also riffs on, rips on 80s businessmen. Like, as these ultimate materialistic, like, I only care about working on Wall Street. And, throughout the film, Patrick Bateman's like, don't you want to know what I do? And it's like, what does he actually do?
That's always left very unclear, right?
You don't know what... And the thing is, like, this film is so freaking ambiguous. Like, it is just... And I think that's the intention. That you can watch this and reflect and be like, well, wait, okay, so Patrick Bateman's meant to be a psychopath. I do all these things. Does that mean I'm a psychopath?
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, I'm not a materialistic person. And so I can look at this and go, oh, I don't care about... I have the things that I like certain perfumes that I like. And I only buy them when I can afford them. Like, they don't define me, though. Whereas in this film, everything that these people do and acquire and attend defines who they are.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was also very relevant to the time. Like, the 80s, 70s, 80s, it was way more common for people to completely identify with their work, their jobs, their career, their security, their home life, whereas now I feel like, as millennials and even Gen X to a degree sort of work more and more, I feel like there's this culture of, we don't have to do that. We don't have to just do one thing our whole lives. We can switch it up and change it up, and we don't actually need all these things that we're raised to think we do.
And I had this conversation with my dad. I had my anti-capitalism conversation with my dad, and like, he knows that I don't want to do what I'm doing forever. And I said, things like, he said to me, you've just got to do what you can to get by. And I was like, no, I don't, Dad. I don't anymore. Funny that it's 2020. I don't have to have that attitude anymore about the things that I'm doing. Like, I can just I could go be a bungee jumping instructor in Thailand if I wanted to be.
Yeah, that attitude is very much a product of his time, I think.
Oh, absolutely. My dad's a boomer, so... Well, not a classic boomer. He was, like, born in the last year of the boomer era, but obviously a lot of his peers would have that attitude where, you've got to do the one thing forever. Like, my dad was in the military police. He did that for 25 years, and he went part-time when I was a kid and started working in debt collection. So he is a... licensed debt recoveries officer. So he used to work for major banks here. Some of his clients, were Warner Brothers. So he was like...
Thick skin.
Yeah, and now he works for the New South Wales government doing similar stuff. So he has always been in this one role, and I understand why, because he would have been taught that once you get a job, you stay there. Like, you just do what you're good at. And there's no mentality of changing what you're good at. Or, like, learning something new and becoming good at that. So, I'm just like...
And, yeah, and the film takes place in this era where it's, you know, relatively a bunch of people in their 30s.
Boomers.
You know?
They were boomers.
Boomers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting to kind of transport yourself back to that time and think, you know, with the landscape that you're working in, I wonder how much your attitudes might shift. Because I am also not a historian, but what was the area like post World War II? Let's repopulate America.
Yeah, we had the same thing.
When was that?
That was just before Vietnam.
Got it.
So we had that
19...
here. It would have been... No, because Vietnam was the 70s. So... Yeah, it would have been post-World War II. Yeah. In Australia, we had the whole... Have one for mum, one for dad, and one for the country.
And then, do you know off the top of your head? I'm so bad at doing research, but when American, like when the characters in American Psycho, like what year it was the 80s.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was like late 80s, mid to late 80s.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah,
27.
the young people like working and being portrayed in the film were our age, but they were a product of, you know, this earlier post World War II, post Vietnam generation.
Yeah.
Where like capitalism was on the rise, big business, big money, repopulation, and like all these things, like materialistic things, were really one of the main ways of like showing your success and your ability to,
and how you're a, like, what's the word, a genuine member of society.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, thank you. That's a good way of putting it.
You're like, hey, I obviously contribute to society because look at all the shit I have.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's insane.
So, can we talk a little bit about the business card scene though?
Yeah, we can. We'll go from there. So
like that scene was, when I saw it for the first time, it was so. It wasn't like cringy. Like I wouldn't classify it as cringy, but I felt so drawn into like the fly in the room, like just watching everyone react and respond to each other while Bateman is just getting more and more and more, like his frustration level is so clearly going through the roof.
Yeah.
And then he pops, and then you have Lewis, right? Just completely, airy-fairy, not even really reading people. And then you've got Paul Allen, who is, he's like kind of the king shit guy.
And he also doesn't know Patrick as Patrick. He thinks he's Marcus, some other guy.
Yes.
So it just goes to prove how frustrating that it'd even be for Patrick, because he's like, he doesn't even recognize me. Like,
I forgot about that little tidbit.
that he called,
right.
That he's Marcus. He's not Patrick to Paul Allen.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
And then the terminology in which they describe the different types of like lettering and type of paper and the different shades of white, and they all look the fucking same.
Yeah.
And
I think that goes to show like the mentality of how comparing your own assets to other people is meaningless and pointless. Yeah. And it's just like, why even don't compare yourself to other people? You all have the same shit. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Why do you care? But
that was so meaningful to people in that era. Like I've worked with a lot of, old ad executives that sort of are a relic of the past, and that shit really matters to them. you know?
I write my phone number and email address on like a piece of paper if someone asks for my business card.
Yeah,
I'm like,
no
I
one
don't have
even
one.
uses business cards anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of see that after this, how much it has affected Bateman, because he actually goes out and murders a homeless guy and his dog. And it's just like, I hate this scene. I hate it.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It was really, it's really hard to watch. But you can see that the frustration and the lack of importance that he felt, like he didn't feel important enough to everybody in that room. Like, and that's where the narcissism comes in, because it's just like, nobody gave me the attention that I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't given the validation that I was seeking. And because I'm Patrick Bateman, people should give me that. Mm-hmm. And it was just really like, fucking nuts.
And I guess that was kind of where it really spiraled into like the American Psycho title of the film.
Because after that, he goes to dinner with Paul Allen, who still thinks he's Marcus.
Yeah! Still thinks he's Marcus. Where was this? Was that was right before, you know how he's you get these like inner monologues?
Yeah.
And how he's what part was it where he was like reciting the inner monologue and he was saying how it was when he was talking about the music when after dinner when Paul Allen came to his place.
But he gets Paul really drunk, right? And this is where you're just like, what? Because he says to Paul Allen, and now because we've had a couple of these internal monologues, like at the start of the movie, he's at a bar, and he says to the bartender, you know, I want, like, you're a fucking ugly bitch, I want to stab you to death, then play around with your blood. And you're just like, and you don't know if she heard him, or if he's thinking he said it, or he said it really low so that she couldn't actually hear it. But while he's talking with Alan, they are talking as Marcus and Paul Allen about Bateman. And Paul says, you know, Evelyn, great ass, you know, she goes out with that loser Patrick Bateman, what a dork.
Yes.
And he's just like, ha ha ha, another martini, Paul? And it's just like, he's made that decision there and then that he's going to fuck shit up for Paul. And it's because, like, so the director, Mary Harron, she has basically said that I chose Bale for this role as Bateman because he's a massive dork. And that's what they wanted to portray Bateman as, like this absolute fucking loser. Who thinks they are so amazing. And so many people think that, you know, like, the absolute dickheads in society just think they're fucking amazing. And I think that she really did this because so many people who were casting Bateman were looking for this really cool guy, you know, the masculine cool dude, you know, everybody loves and he's really in. And Harron was like, no. Bateman is a fucking loser. Like, he is a dork and everybody around him thinks he's just an idiot. And you kind of see that
I didn't know
throughout
that.
the movie, you know, that people just
That's
have...
very cool.
Yeah, have contempt for him and kind of just dismiss him here and there. So I think we're seeing a lot of the movie from who he thinks he is. And it's just so jarring to see how people react to what he says. Because I now watch it and go, okay, well, Patrick Bateman thinks this is who he is portraying to these people. And their reactions just don't match how he is acting and what he is saying.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because I had no idea that was the intent. And as you're describing that, I'm like relating to that. I'm like, nobody throughout the whole movie, like, he's this big like VP, daddy's company, but there's all these parts in the film where he doesn't really get taken very seriously. Nope. Which is not something I picked up.
And the funny thing is, I'm like, so yes, Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale character, Is that what he actually looks like to everybody? Or does he just think that's how he looks to everyone?
Oh my god. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind a little bit.
Because it's all through his perspective, right? It's his story and how he sees him as this player in this world. Is that what he actually looks like? Does he actually have his hair like that? Is he actually that sculpted? You know, does he actually dress that well?
Yeah, which brings us kind of semi-naturally to the sex scene where he's looking in the mirror and he's like flexing his muscles and really just getting off to his version of himself.
Exactly. And that's what makes me think, does he actually look like that? Or is he just, you know what I mean? Like, is it him? Or is this his version of himself that he thinks everybody sees? It's insane.
I love it. I love it. That's so great.
But before that sex scene, which just fucking weirds me out, he does... This is my favourite scene. The Paul Allen in Patrick Bateman's apartment. I fucking love this scene because this to me is ultimate, like, psychopath.
Just summarize it quickly.
Oh, okay. Well, just the hip to be square, where he's like talking about Huey Lewis, and he's like, you know, it's the greatest artistic, you know, songs of all time, and
he's just paraphrasing a review, right? Like that's the thing is nothing he says about anything is really of his own opinion.
Yeah,
it's just paraphrasing, like regurgitating news or reviews or things he's read somewhere else.
And that's what makes me think he's a fucking huge dork. Because that's shit I do. Like, obviously I have my own opinions and stuff, but I like to be able to recite that stuff for people to give them information that they might not have had in, you know, the past.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big difference is how intentional you are with
absolutely.
The purpose, like how intentional you are with the delivery. You know, because if it's a psychopath, you're like, I need to recite this as exact and as normal as possible in order to fit in,
to look normal.
Whereas,
and appear normal.
Whereas, like you probably just want to be informed, and have like good facts and be knowledgeable about a topic, so you know you can speak to it firmly to other people.
I read this article and it said such and such. But his whole apartment is covered in plastic, which speaks again to psychopathy. So, like, everything being absolutely planned to the T.
And wait, hold on a sec. And Paul Allen
is wasted.
Does he Paul Allen does say something about the plastic, doesn't he?
I didn't make a note of that. Maybe.
He comments there's some snide remark that Paul Allen makes about the furnishings or something.
I thought he just said something about nice view, but
yeah, maybe. But regardless, it further fuels the hatred and the intent to kill.
Oh yeah. And then he just I just love his raincoat that he has on.
Yeah.
And he's like doing his little dance as he's like dancing to Hip to Be Square. And at the start of the movie, like Evelyn calls him a square. And it's just like all these like little connecting things. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason he put this on. Maybe it's like him saying, hey, fuck you, Evelyn. It's cool to be a square like this. Whatever. So, I love this scene because you don't actually see the axe hitting Paul Allen. It's just the splashback of this just blood going up Patrick Bateman's face. Mm-hmm. And I kind of enjoy that for what it is rather than making it a gore film. It just all alludes to him doing these things because we don't actually see him doing them. Later on, when you're thinking about the film, it's like, did he actually do them? Because we don't see him doing it.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that kind of helps play... Because like I said, the ending is so ambiguous. The whole film is so ambiguous that you're like questioning Patrick Bateman's actual actions, you know, because he talks about how he's killed all these people. And it's like, but we never see him do it. So therefore, as the viewer, we have proof hey, maybe he didn't do it. Like, we have reasonable doubt to believe that he didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh man. Sorry, you're blowing my mind a bit right now because I know the
I
ending.
think
Like
about
the
this movie
ending is
too much.
always. The ending has always like I. The ending is so ambiguous, which is
Yeah.
why there's so many blogs and articles that have been written about how ambiguous the movie is. But I don't think I went as deep back as you did and questioned every scene the way you're doing it right now. Whereas like I feel dumb for not doing it
No,
because
I've honestly watched this movie so many times and had so many conversations about it.
okay,
That,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and I was online last night reading so many articles because I was like, what? Like, it was just literally like, what does American Psycho mean? And obviously, my opinions differ to what I read, but a lot of it was just like, it's ambiguous, it's ambiguous, it's ambiguous. I was like, fuck, it really is, isn't it?
Like for example, it never really I never connected that you don't actually see him murdering.
No, you don't see him. You see him with the weapons and with like blood on his face, but you don't see him actually physically killing these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. The my favorite part about that scene when Paul Allen comes over is Huey Lewis in the news and how he's describing the music and like excitedly getting ready to like kill him.
Someone.
It's
He's
just
got like
one
a
of
big
the
smile
most.
on his face, and you're like, what the fuck?
It's got to be one of the most just like jaw-dropping scenes in any movie because like Christian Bale, I like Christian Bale a lot too, and
Yes.
he was like, I feel like that his acting in American Psycho probably had a lot to do with putting him on the map. I don't know if that's true or not.
No, I agree, and it's arguably one of his best films, hands down. Oh, besides, I really enjoyed The Machinist, but
Oh yeah,
him
yeah.
in American Psycho, definitely was just like a, hey, I'm here, check me out. He did just a mind-blowing job as Patrick Bateman. And if you've read the book, like, you can, well, I highly recommend reading the book. You can see the like the dorkiness that Patrick Bateman is meant to be, and you can see it in Christian Bale and his acting.
Yeah, I should check out the book.
Do it.
Because
it's so worth
like
it.
I'm notoriously, I think probably the only series I read before actually watching the movies was like Harry Potter, and I think I don't even think I finished the last installment of the book. But I do believe it's true where like most people say the book is just so much better in a lot of ways than the films are.
With this
I don't know if you find that.
I think they're easily
On par.
On par. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. I normally will always say movie isn't as good as the book. Because I read a lot. I read, like, before I'd even turned 15, I'd read The Hobbit and read all of the Lord of the Rings books, and I'd read all of Harry Potter, and most of the time now when a movie comes out that's an adaptation of a book, I've already read the book. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll watch the movie, because I like The Witches. I'd read all of Roald Dahl's books before they became movies, so
you must be able to read quite fast.
Yes,
because I feel
I'm a
like
speed reader.
if you are able to do that,
yeah,
which is a rare quality in
my
today's
dad and
day
I
and age.
both can do it.
So do you have like a book club?
I actually used to have a Bookstagram, which was really cool.
Oh, what happened to that?
I just couldn't manage doing that and work and like mental health care stuff that I was doing at the time, and it just got hard to balance it all, and I kind of just got over it. Like, I read a lot more doing it because I was writing reviews. Like, I was getting sent books from like Simon and Schuster and Pan Macmillan, and like I was writing reviews for them, and then it just got really overwhelmed, like a lot of work. And I was like, I kind of want to read now just for my enjoyment. So I'm reading Stephen King at the moment. So
oh, that's cool.
I'm reading Dr. Sleep. It's taking me a really long time though, only because I have really poor.
Oh, I saw the movie.
The movie's so good. I love the movie.
as soon as you said that, I was like, wait, did I watch that movie?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really good and
loved
really
it.
fucking scary too.
Oh, really? Did you find it? I didn't find it scary. Oh, I didn't find it scary.
I'll
thought
tell
it
you,
was
let's just. It was magical, but just quick sidebar. The thing I found most scary is how they would suck the souls out of people.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. Yeah.
That was
And it
that
wasn't
was
out of
fucked up for
people.
me.
It was just like out of really special people who had The Shining.
I know.
Leave them alone.
Oh my gosh.
Psychos.
That would be a good one to do a podcast on.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
And you also just mentioned a movie that just like blasted me into the past, which was The Machinist.
Yeah, that's so good, that movie.
Which just quickly, another movie I just sort of watched on a whim without knowing anything about, and then was disturbed for weeks afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies.
Like, deeply disturbed.
Yeah. It's really...
Anyways.
And it's really sad, that movie, as well. On top of it all.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was
I'm
that...
one of those
was
weirdos
that...
that's everything's sad.
That was after American Psycho,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think The Machinist was... No, The Machinist was before, I think. Let me have a look.
Yeah, we gotta fact check that because...
Yeah, The Machinist was 2005. So 5 years after American Psycho.
Got it.
I wasn't sure if it was
makes
before or
sense.
after. Yeah.
What about the scene where he drops the chainsaw down the stairs?
Before that, my favorite bit after this Huey Lewis scene is when he goes to Paul Allen's apartment and he's like, "Oh, much better view. Obviously, he pays a lot more rent than what I do." And I was like, "Well, he doesn't anymore because you just fucking killed him." So
yeah,
and leaves like the voicemail. And then this is the scene where he grabs the two prostitutes and goes back to his house for the sex fest.
Yeah.
And he calls the girl Christy. And I'm not sure if that's Paul Allen's girlfriend's name, because he tells the prostitutes that his name's Paul Allen. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for remembering these details.
I like take notes. I'm like,
You know, every time, you know, I see sex workers portrayed in film.
I shouldn't have said prostitutes, like, because that's what I have written here. Oh, I feel dirty.
I'm
gonna beep that.
Yeah,
word.
that's okay. I guess my girlfriend is like very on. She's very up to date with like all the politically correct terms.
I just don't like the word prostitute.
Does it have a negative connotation or something? Why is that?
I don't know. I just prefer the word sex worker because it kind of like includes everybody that works in that industry.
See.
Like it's an inclusive
That's true.
term.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't realized that.
But I feel like in Australia, prostitute has a very negative connotation.
It is, I guess, historically used as an insult.
Yes. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember when I saw that scene where he hires the two sex workers, just feeling like very scared and anxious.
Yeah.
Because as a sex worker, like you're kind of at the whim of your clientele.
Yeah.
And you're providing a service, and this, depending on the preference of your client, they can be, you know, very different and far from one another. And I just like, I guess knowing too, like watching that much of the movie and seeing Bateman interact with the world,
I was like, no, get away from him. And especially the scene that was really like concerning for me, was when he had one of the girls that he called Christy in the bath, and he's being nice to her, and I was just like, that's making me feel more sick than you just being your usual self, because we totally. As a viewer know that's not him, that's not what he's like. And then obviously,
but so does the sex worker. Doesn't the sex worker also kind of feel a bit weird about it too?
Yeah, you can tell that she's very awkward and concerned like about what's going to happen next. And this is where I'm saying like the reactions of the people he interacts with do not balance the actual things that he's saying and doing. So this is where I'm like, it's his perception and projection he's putting out that isn't what he's actually doing.
Yeah.
And we're only seeing what he's doing, like he thinks he's doing.
Oh my god, everything you're saying, like I feel like I have to go rewatch the movie under a completely different lens.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've watched. Yeah, I've watched it a couple times, and I feel like I've been watching it the wrong way, based on what you're saying, which makes a lot of sense.
I think it's all the like the sociology stuff that I've done that's given me a different type of critical lens when I watch movies, because I like to look for like you know, messages about society in movies. So I'm always watching for that and watching and going, okay, well, is he doing this because of, you know, society says that he has to be like this, or, you know, that's the way I watch films. Not through. And a lot of the time I find it really hard to enjoy films because my brain automatically goes into that mode and I'm like, now I'm analyzing this whole film.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of friends that are just so judgmental about movies. I kind of go the opposite, and I'm just like, let me just try and find something I enjoy about it, because this is my time I'm investing into this. Oftentimes you're paying for the experience to watch a movie. But I do want to watch American Psycho again. With a better mind of like what to look at.
Yeah, I just find it's really interesting if you do watch it that way, because you're just like, wow, okay, the way she looks at him because of what he said doesn't match for me.
Oh, got it. Yeah. And then the other, so that murder scene, like when, you know, he goes crazy with the sex worker. That's the first time in the film, as someone kind of going in blind, I was like, wait, what is really going on here?
Yeah.
Because they escape, they're running down the stairs, and then he drops.
Oh, that's not this bit. He brings them back a second time. So they leave this time. But they leave like all banged up.
You're right.
And then the next day, the police come to his house. Oh no, his work. And they're like, hey, you know, Paul Allen's gone missing.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about it? Apparently he's in London. So-and-so saw him there. And you're just like, this is really fucking weird. Because there's witnesses that have said... The police
said he was in London?
Well, they think he's gone missing, and then Patrick Bateman's like, oh, well, so-and-so, you know, said he was in London. They saw him at a restaurant in London.
Oh.
And so...
Which is just...
But the police are there because Paul Allen worked at Pierce & Pierce, and Bateman is the vice president. So, of course, he's going to come in and ask, hey, what do you know about Paul Allen? Tell us about him. And the thing is that Patrick is able to basically tell him everything about Paul. About where he went to school, who his girlfriend is, the type of suit that he wears, like, obsessively knows shit about this guy.
I forgot about that.
And that's the thing that narcissists do, right?
Yes.
They remember shit so that they can use it against people in the future. Like keeping tabs.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what there's an actual term that, like psychologists give it. And, so they'll remember things about people so that it can be used in information later. Either for positive gain or for, like, detrimental gain.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've done a lot of like personal reflection into like how I have maybe contributed in some way to making people feel uncomfortable. And I'm pretty good at that. Like I've been able to somehow remove a lot of that like ego and pride that maybe might stop other people. And if there's anything I've like seen and learned from, seeing this story over and over again, it's that even if it takes like decades, the truth will always somehow surface.
Yeah.
And if you operate from that belief, it really makes it easier to just be honest up front and blunt with people, even if it is painful, even if it is hard and difficult, because there's no like easy way out of like pushing down lies and weird fucking manipulations.
Do you know
and
how
shit.
I get around that? I don't lie. I don't lie. I physically and mentally cannot lie.
Yeah, I do. I lie how I'm feeling at work.
I think that's different. You're lying about yourself, not.
Yeah. Like I was on. My poor girlfriend Talia. She never hears the fucking end of it. Just about how fed up I am with some of the corporate bullshit that goes on. And we're driving up somewhere. She's in the car with me, and I'm like on a conference call on speakerphone, and somehow like. People are on the call are like complaining about, how they feel like it's Friday, just the usual bullshit. And somehow I chime in and I like unmute myself and I'm like, guys, come on. When you love your work, you don't work a day in your life. And I'm like, I was like, why did I say that? That's like the most bullshit fucking thing. And it's like a coping thing because you're desperately trying to like claw your way out. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. I'll shut myself up.
I get it though.
Yeah, it's good
that's
because
different to lying about things that, affect more than just you and, your 2 a.m. anxiety that wakes you up going, why the fuck did I say that on that phone call?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, thank you. That makes me feel better.
No, I find that normal. Like, my boss will be like, how you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm great. And inside I'm like, why am I lying?
Yeah. Everyone's just trying to get by, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like that's a little bit different.
So so when I watch American Psycho for the next time I watch it, like, I'm gonna look out for more themes around what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Is it Patrick Bateman who the film is being portrayed through, or is it like third person? Are we just watching a bunch of big executives? What else should I look out for?
His interactions with people.
Yeah.
And you can see how awkward and off-putting he really is. Like, at the start of the movie, they all give him a hard time for being politically correct because he's just like quit it with the anti-Semitic remarks. And obviously, during that time, men aren't politically correct. So obviously, he's a loser because he's, trying to tone police them in a way.
Because he read it somewhere or something.
Yeah,
right?
he had read something, and then at another meeting, dinner or something, he's someone says, "What about the such and such in Yemen?" And he's like, "We've got so much more to worry about, solving world hunger and homelessness."
Yeah,
and he goes on this big spiel about all these social issues that are occurring and reducing materialism in the youth and disconnecting them from blah 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 blah, and it's just like. A jock dude, like a Chad, would not be saying that at a dinner with a whole bunch of friends. Like, only a dork, what society at the time would label a loser or a dork or a nerd or whatever,
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing I did not clue into. Like, I didn't pick up on those subtleties. But as you're saying it, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Like, a business, like an executive at a fucking firm would never give a shit about any of that.
No, they wouldn't even know about it.
Huh.
And then there's
and
also...
they do give him a hard time.
They give him so much shit all the time.
Yeah.
And then
Weird.
there's
So
the juxtaposition or the dichotomy between his out in social world versus him in his home world as well. So you've got him like this sexual deviancy coming out, and he's, you know, really intense with sex workers, and then there's the chainsaw scene, you know, where he's just so brutally violent, but in his everyday social life where he's at work, he's such a not calm, but there's a massive like mask there. That's, you know, and I think in a monologue he talks about how the mask of reality is slipping. And, you know, but we're already seeing that in his home life, you know, where he's, you know, chopping up sex workers and putting heads in fridges, and he has his later on he has his assistant come over for dinner. They're meant to be going to Dorsia for dinner, and everyone's obsessed with Dorsia because that's where you got to be.
Yeah.
And he offers her. This is one thing where I was like, okay, I can. This broke it for me the first time I watched it. He has he offers her gelato, and he says, you know, no, I'm on a diet. No thanks. Here you go. Enjoy. And she's finished, and she goes to put the spoon on the table. And he, like, cracks it, and he's like, no, put it in the tub. But at that same time, he opens the freezer, and there's the head of one of the sex workers in a plastic bag on the shelf. And, like I said, we never see him killing these people. Like, what's going on? Is he actually, like, paranoid psychoactive? That he's... like, these are illusions that he's delusions that he's having. Because, like, after he breaks off his engagement with Evelyn, he goes to the ATM, and the ATM says, feed me a cat. Feed me a stray cat.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you know what this reminds me of every time? Do you ever remember that video meme where the ATM card is, like, flipping trying to get into the ATM? I gotta find it. It cracks me up every time.
How old is that meme?
Oh, pretty old.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen that one.
I'm gonna find it. I gotta find it.
There's only a few like ATM memes.
It's like a video, and it's like, please. I've got to find it because I lose my shit watching it every time. Oh my god, I found it. Yes. You have to link the video in the description. Yeah, I will link it. I'm gonna share it with you so you can watch it and people can hear your reaction to the video.
Oh my god. Send it. I need to see this.
I could watch it on repeat because it just cracks me up.
What the fuck? Oh my god! So it's the screen is glitching out, and then the person
is like trying to get that.
Tries to emulate. Oh my god, that's so funny. I haven't seen that one. Repeat.
I fucking love it.
Well, it's rare. It's rare for as many know. It's rare for me to see a meme I haven't seen before.
Oh,
so
I am honored.
Congratulations.
And so when I see the ATMs on American Psycho, I think of that video.
You should do your own. You need to do your own like parody video.
Yeah.
It could be a series.
It'll just be me at every ATM doing this, or me trying to put my cat in the ATM.
But then again, who really uses ATMs anymore?
I don't even carry cash. I think I have some money in my wallet, but my nieces will probably end up with that because my youngest niece is 4, and she's always like, "Can I have the pennies in your wallet?" And I was just like,
"That's cute."
Pennies? Oh yeah, here you go. Here's $3.
That's cute.
Yeah, she cracks me up. So this is where the meltdown of Patrick Bateman happens. And now, like I said, does it happen? Or is he imagining it? Is he having a paranoid schizophrenic episode? In a way. I don't know much about mental health disorders. So I'm going to assume, because with schizophrenia, you do suffer paranoid delusions and whatnot, and hallucinations. So I don't know if this is one of those.
This is like towards the end of the movie.
Where he goes to kill the cat, but he actually shoots a woman instead. Because the woman's like, don't do that to the cat.
That's right.
And then he's chased by police.
This is where, this is where I'm at this, the point in the movie where I'm just like, okay, what the fuck is going on? What did I just watch? Is really where it starts to unravel for me, which is why I want to go back and sort of rewatch it. And also, I feel like you read a bunch of really cool articles that I have not read.
I'll see if I can find them and I'll send them through to you.
Yeah, please do, because I'm almost like right now, I'm like right after we wrap this podcast up, I want to go watch the film again. I kid you not.
I think I might also have, because I'm doing YouTube videos soon, which just talks about like sociology and criminology in horror movies.
Yes.
And I think I have an American Psycho. I can't remember. I'm not too sure because I have like all folders. No. And I had a journal article on American Psycho. So I might try and find it and I'll send you that. Because I read that and I think it talks about like mental health and whatnot in American Psycho.
Did you ever stumble upon any like interviews from the director or the producers that like is there anyone who made the film on record that admitted to the film being made through Patrick Bateman's point of view?
No, I didn't find anything. But now that you say that, I kind of want to look for interviews. I only found like articles that have been written with quotes, like direct quotes and stuff. So I'd be more inclined to read actual interviews.
Yeah.
I think it just might be hard to dig up because this year it's 20 years since the film was released, so...
well, Kat, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
I know. It's been great.
Yeah, like this, I feel like it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we could finally...
Do you want to...
It's so hard.
Do we want to talk about the end?
Yes.
Because I feel like that's going to be really important to contribute to the ambiguity that is this fucking movie.
Well, so like my experience with the end of it is just like confusion. Like I was just confused.
And do you know why I found it confusing? Is because everybody also gives him different names. Like, the cop calls him Davis, and then someone calls him Marcus, and then he gets, like, another name, and then sometimes he's Patrick, and it's like... Is this to show... And this is what I read last night, right? That, basically, the end, where he's just like, this confession meant nothing, is to show how... he just blended into society and nobody even noticed. Nobody noticed him. That's why he's given all these different names. That's why nobody believes him when he says he murdered all these people. The cop doesn't believe him. Like... But the thing is, like, someone also said in another article, maybe he did kill all these people, but he definitely didn't kill Paul Allen like he thinks he did. He just wanted to kill Paul Allen, but never achieved that.
I feel like it's got to be one or the other. You know what I mean? Like, it's too much for my little brain to comprehend, like, a hybrid of the theories. Like, I almost am just like, give me one, or like, put my mind at ease, give me one or the other. Like, none of this shit about, like, maybe he did some of the murders, maybe he didn't. I am going to rewatch the film.
Yeah, watch it.
Under the slightly modified lens of constantly questioning whether this is actually happening or not.
Yeah. Use that lens in everything that Patrick Bateman does or says.
Yeah.
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 Because he calls his lawyer, who's out to dinner, and his lawyer calls him Davis. You know when he's like thinks he's like getting chased by the cops, and he like runs into his workplace, and he's like holed up, and there's like helicopters everywhere, and so he calls his lawyer, and he had called his lawyer and confessed to murdering Paul Allen, and his lawyer just laughs at him And it's like, oh, whatever, you're joking. Like, they've seen Paul Allen out. You know, he's in London. You're crazy.
Oh my god, I missed
Yeah.
that detail.
Yeah.
Like I didn't pick up on I don't know why. I seemed like a daft idiot, but I didn't pick up on all the like different names that people call him.
Yeah. Because I'm just like, Paul Allen refers to him as Marcus, and his lawyer calls him Davis. And then, it's just crazy because the police officer, when he first goes to see Patrick, says, you know, Allen in his diary was meant to be having dinner with Marcus on such and such a night. Before he went missing. And Patrick's like, you're like, was it Patrick that was out to dinner, or was Patrick hallucinating that whole interaction?
Because that I have read about instances where, you know, people with bipolar disorder or dissociative schizophrenia or something will hallucinate entire periods in their heads.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so fucked up.
But then at the end, he just, nothing happens. And there's just so many different ways you can look at this. Like, nobody cares that the son of a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company murdered all these people and he just gets away with it. He hallucinated the whole thing.
It's kind of a non-ending.
Yeah, there's not an ending.
Yeah, and that's it's hard to talk about the ending for me because I'm like, well, how the fuck do you talk about the ending? Because the film just ends with all this ambiguity.
Yeah.
And you're like, as the viewer, you're like, wow, what a great ride I just went on.
This guy murdered all these people.
Yeah, and it's almost like maybe a window into how Bateman maybe feels all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Like, do I exist? What am I? How do I fit into this part of society?
Are we in a simulation? I don't know. I'm sorry. That was a dumb thing to say.
No, not at all, because a lot of people have speculated that this entire thing is all in Patrick Bateman's head and it's a dream.
Oh.
Which I wouldn't look at it that way.
Yeah.
I definitely look at it more as like a split between his reality and what he thinks is his reality and what reality actually is.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Oh, man, if anything, this like being on the podcast has done is it's made me like even more excited to watch the movie again.
I reckon it's definitely worth it. Because you just look at it and you're like when I was watching it last night, I hadn't watched it for quite some time. Because you know when you just watch a movie so much that you kind of just get tired of it? Yeah, and I kind of done that with American Psycho, and I kind of stopped watching it before I got sick of it. So I was like, I'm not going to let that happen with this movie. And then when I watched it last night, I was like, now I know why I love it. Because it's just so insane to think this is just a big... I don't know,
There's no word for it. There's no word for it.
I tried.
This fever dream. This extended fever dream.
It really feels like that.
Well, when we were talking about the podcast and what we were wanting to talk about, I think I can't remember, but you were like, oh well, we should talk about something in this category, and I didn't even think. I was just like, oh, hands down, American Psycho. There wasn't really any other film in this category that I would enjoy talking about more.
Why do you think that American Psycho is a horror film?
It's because I think some of the most horrific things that can happen to people are psychological and in your own mind. not necessarily like sci-fi, but I think some of my I definitely know like some of my deepest fears that I have are like losing my mind in
Yeah.
some ways, or being disassociative with what's actually happening around me. Like to me that is horrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Me, I was like,
And
oh, it
I
just talks about the horrors of society and how bland white men are.
yes, which is also equally horrifying.
How fucking everything's given to white middle-aged men.
Yeah, I wonder if there are any articles. I wonder if there are any articles about that. Did
Oh,
you
I could
find
absolutely
any?
find something.
Yeah, cuz I would like to read about that cuz that's
Yeah.
also super relevant in like today's day and age.
I mean, it's been relevant ever since white men existed.
Yeah, but I don't you feel like there's more of like a global discussion
Yeah,
about it though?
yes, yeah, definitely. And I think that it
Like
varies
people are
from
getting
place to
more
place.
woke.
Yeah, you've got your woke people who think it's pseudo-intellectualism, and,
Yeah.
you know, they're fighting for rights while also speaking over the top of other people. And then you
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
and like, I don't have any issue with people being educated. It's just how they use the information that they have. And I think that that's where that level of wokeness has gone. But I don't, for myself, I wouldn't categorize myself as woke or anything. It's, I went to school, I learnt these things, but I'm also interested in bettering myself as a person and, you know, gaining insight into more information. And it's not my role in society to speak over the top of the other voices that need to be heard in regard to those situations. Whereas people who are in that far left, radicalized, woke section of society, that even leftists are like, what are you talking about? Because, you know, that's where the TERFs live as well. They live in there. And non-inclusive feminism's over there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like
Yeah.
where it goes into a circle where you've got like your radical rights and your radical lefts, and they almost meet in their like way of pushing their own agendas over the top of everybody else's, and it's
Yeah.
complex.
That was really actually good recent learning for me too, is the idea of, you know, not necessarily as a white person feeling like you should even add to the conversation because it takes away from, you know, the people that actually are going through something that deserve to be heard over you.
I don't feel like it's that you can't contribute to the conversation. I think it's knowing when and what your intention is when contributing. That's what's important. It's always, it's definitely time and intention for me. Like supporting, you know, BIPOC creators, you know, sharing content and highlighting, you know, content creators that I love that don't look like me or aren't me, and I think that that's important as well. Like, I contribute when I can and when I see it as appropriate.
Yeah. Which can be hard to identify sometimes too.
And if you can't, then just don't.
Yeah, good call.
You know, like, just don't. If you can't find the time when your contribution can be made or should be made, just hold on to it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I love, you know, more men coming to the conversation and about... See, the only thing I can really talk about is feminism issues, like cis female issues. That's it. And at the moment, there's just no conversations I can really contribute to, other than if someone comes to me with a question, I can share my personal experiences and opinions on something, and that's it. Or offer resources, because like as someone who does a lot of research, like I can share articles or information. Like my partner asks me a lot of questions about feminism and whatnot, and I'm glad that I can have those conversations with him.
Yeah, that's the other big thing too, is having a good sort of stable of like resources behind you to at least like point people in a direction that is more relevant than whatever your own sort of like experiences are as a white person too.
Yeah. And the thing is, also, people need to remember that it's not, black or indigenous or people of color's responsibility to educate you either.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, it was indigenous. I think it was like an Indigenous Peoples Day in October 12th in America.
Nice.
And I was like, you know what? I shouldn't. It was on one of my stream days, and I was like, I shouldn't stream. But here are some resources that you can go check out today.
Yeah.
And then my girlfriend helped me found like a Maori carver. And she was like, you should just like host this person for the evening.
Is it the carver from New Zealand?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's so funny, and he's so humble and just like wholesome.
you know the person.
Yeah, he had the New Zealand Prime Minister on his stream, Jacinda Ardern.
No way.
Yeah, like she came to his house. It was so cool.
That is really fucking cool.
It was really cool. It was
Was
so
it on
wholesome.
a Twitch stream?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's like
awesome.
in her late 30s, early 40s. She's the coolest. She's so freaking cool.
That's awesome.
And they've basically eliminated COVID in their country. So, what does that tell you about women leading countries?
Oh my god. Oh my god. There needs to be more fucking women running shit.
Yeah.
Like, we're so done. We're so done with old white dudes telling fucking women what to do with their bodies.
Oh, don't even get me started.
That's next time.
I could do a whole podcast on that.
I know. I know.
A podcast, like an actual podcast, not just an episode. It'd just be me having a massive rant at the Australian government at the moment, so...
Well, I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm literally going to go and eat pizza and watch American Psycho again.
Amazing. All right. So quickly, before we wrap up and do our little outro, what's the last horror movie you watched?
Last horror movie I watched. Oh my gosh, it was recent, actually. It's got to be a movie, hey?
Oh, it can be a TV show, horror related.
Well, I watched this. I recently finished watching this extremely dark, kind of like psychological horror-ish type movie, kind of like along the same lines as American Psycho, called Ratchet.
Oh, the TV show Ratchet.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I watched that. I loved it.
I mean, it was like, that's the first thing I thought of when you're like, what's the last horror movie you watched?
No, Ratchet is absolutely loved from the horror community because it's just really friggin', it's intense, huh?
Oh my god, I questioned several times if I should just stop watching it.
Oh, really?
It was so fucking crazy. Yeah.
Maybe I just have a different level of what is crazy than other people. What's wrong with me?
There's a couple things, and I have a high tolerance too, but when you start like boiling people, I'm like,
oh, see, that didn't faze me that much because I don't see what I mean.
No spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything, but Ratchet definitely popped into my head.
It's great. I love Sarah Paulson. I am a huge Sarah Paulson fan, so she did such a brilliant job as Nurse Ratched.
Oh, she was amazing. Like, haunting.
Yeah. Have you watched her in American Horror Story?
I've watched a little bit of American Horror Story, but not the whole thing.
She's in quite a few seasons as like one of the main characters. Mainly, I know she's in Coven. She's in Freak Show.
She's in a lot of horror films, isn't she?
Yeah. Mainly TV shows, I think. Yeah. I feel. I haven't seen her in many movies, to be honest, which is weird.
She's also like gorgeous too.
Oh, she's stunning, and she's just everything. She's just amazing. I really enjoyed her in Ratched, really, really. And the guy who plays Edmund was also in American Horror Story Freak Show, and he plays a psycho in that as well, named Dandy, who marries Sarah Paulson's character, who is the two-headed like sisters.
He was also great in Ratched.
Brilliant. He's brilliant.
It was almost like it was quite a lot. Like I spent about a week recovering after finishing the series.
I binge watched it on a Saturday at my house. I was just on the couch, and I got to
the
about
whole thing.
I had like maybe 4 episodes left to watch. And I got to like episode 7 and I messaged my sister who had finished the show. So I've got 2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
And so the next one down from me, I messaged her and I was like, Emily, what the fuck am I watching right now? And she messaged me back
good.
and she's like, Kat, Rebecca, who is our baby sister, just messaged me saying the exact same thing.
No way. So you guys are watching it at the same time without even knowing it?
So the eldest and the youngest were watching it and both messaging the middle sister being like, what did you make us watch?
That's so
Because my baby sister loves horror movies and she's like, maybe I inherited it from you. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't think so. Because like I had already, by the time she was in high school, like we didn't live together. So I was already at a home. Because she's only,
so
I think she's only 22 or something, so I'm 9 years older than her. So I was like, I
wonder
think it's
if
me.
the older you get, the more, because I feel like if I watched Ratchet in my 20s, it probably wouldn't have affected me as much.
I just would have palmed it off. I would have been like, like I would have watched it, but it just would have been like water off a duck's back kind of thing.
Yeah, isn't that weird how, you know, like the older you get, the more kind of, I mean, I guess you just take things a little more seriously the older you get.
Yeah.
So when you see someone fucking boiling alive, you're like, I don't need to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I did think that, but I was just like, also contextual. Back in those days, in that era, that would have been considered appropriate. And so I like to put things into a context shaft almost, where I'm like, it's going to live in this bubble. Today, nobody would do that. Thank God.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ratchet was definitely the most recent and like depressing horror series I've seen recently.
Yeah, I just started watching,
because it only came out
start of October, I think. Because I remember being end of September. I was so psyched on it because I was like, "Hurry up, come out!" Because I love Sarah
you
Paulson.
were waiting for it.
I was like waiting for it to come out, and the day it launches, I got home and I'm like, "Yes!" Because like I get to watch it before America does. So I was like, "Fuck everyone! You got to wait until tomorrow."
Yeah, I just stumbled upon it.
It's great.
Like, what the fuck is this? What have I gotten myself into?
If you really liked Dr. Sleep, the director Mike Flanagan has done a series on Netflix called The Haunting of Hill House, and he recently did Haunting of Bly Manor. So, The Haunting of Hill House is fucking nuts. But Bly Manor, and they're not interconnected, so like you don't have to watch Hill House to watch Bly Manor at all. And Bly Manor's like a little bit more toned down than Hill House. But Mike Flanagan did that. So that's what I just started watching this week.
And Bly Manor just came out this year too.
Last week or the week before? 9th of October it came out.
Oh my gosh, there's too much shit to watch.
Do you have Shudder? Because I'm obsessed with Shudder. It's
I have a Shudder account, but I don't use it that often.
You have to watch Beyond the Gates. It's fantastic. I just watched it this week. It was really good. It's about, remember those old 80s video board games?
Oh yeah.
It's about that. It's really good. It's got Barbara Crampton in it as well.
Oh my God, and this is 2015. Is it 2015?
2015 or 16 or something.
2016. Oh my gosh. I am anytime I ever don't know what to watch, I'm writing you.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna message you.
Ned and I just live on movies because we're both trying to save money, so we literally just stay home and watch movies all weekend, every weekend.
This is great. This is so awesome.
And Tubi has some really good stuff as well.
Thank you so much for these recommendations.
You're welcome.
Now I'm like, do I watch this or American Psycho? But I need to focus.
You can follow up with, if you want some fun, with Beyond the Gates.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like kind of really campy with 80s synth music and
Yeah, I'm down.
it's cool.
With that, though.
I loved it. I was like, I'm so really particular about my horror. Like, I'm even so bad about watching sequels. Like, I suck at, like, following up with sequels. I just never watch a sequel. And this week I've been watching the sequels to Scream. So I'm like, finally! Watching some sequels! I watched Scream 2.
The sequels to Scream, amazing.
Well, I actually tweeted on my Twitter. I was like, watching the sequels, can't wait, because Scream 5 comes out in January. And my friend's like, Kat, you've got heaps of time. It's January 2022. And I was like, that actually gives me a lot more time. Because that's how much I suck at watching sequels.
Well, there you go.
All right, so oh, sorry, what was that?
Yeah, I guess the last thing is, where can listeners find me?
Oh my god! I was just about to say, can you tell people where we can find you on the internet?
Yeah, twitch.tv/Jomo Senpai. I stream a lot of memes, a lot of indie games, recently some horror games in October. You can just find me everywhere on the internet, Jomo Senpai. Just Google it, and I'll show up in a bunch of different places.
Hopefully in the right places.